Seated on a Lufthansa airliner scheduled to depart from Frankfurt, Germany to Washington, D.C. on September 29, 2017, I asked a man sitting next to me, "Are you traveling through Frankfurt from somewhere else?" The passenger said he is returning from Israel. "Where are you coming from?" he added. I said, "From Tehran." His demeanor changed from passive to interested. Both of us chuckled politely. Our mutual discomfort at this point stemmed from the fact that the U.S. and Israel are declared enemies of the official Islamic Republic of Iran. American political and military administrators have classified Iran as a member of an axis of evil and chief proponent of the destruction of the Jewish state of Israel. Iran does not have diplomatic relations with the U.S. or Israel. Our brief exchange on the jetliner occurred as I was returning from a 15-day tour of Persia, the contemporary Iran, organized by a tour operator called Sobek Mountain Travel, and accompanied by one of Sobek's co-founders and adventure travel guide and author Richard Bangs. During my sojourn, I found the general populace of Iran to be anything but antagonistic to Americans, or to Jews, Christians, or any visitor or community for that matter. Of roughly 70-plus countries I have visited, no other nation surprised me as much as this one, its inhabitants generally expressing and demonstrating extraordinary admiration for the United States, and Americans especially. One takeaway from my experience there is that Iran today, despite internal difficulties, is an unlikely provocateur of global mayhem. The international political stratosphere that has for a long time promoted distrust and discomfort, it appears, is disconnected from the general disposition of the citizens of these quarreling nations on the ground. For sure, there are clusters of anti-American Zionist slogans scattered about the country, but these were scarce and mostly a formalism driven by media and a few political special interest groups. I never was accosted in a threatening or less than friendly manner by any inhabitant of Iran during my stay, except modestly by immigration officials at the airport. On the other hand, there were innumerable incidents of unexpected generosity and proffers of goodwill and well wishes from every sector of the society, from teens to families and older adults, and even recruits of the military. A juxtaposition of militarism against the backdrop of Iran's powerful religious establishment is ironic, but not particularly intimidating. The people, the architecture, the amazing bazaars, the history and the landscape hold clues to a legacy that has been cultivated by one of the world's greatest empires, the Persian Empire. That empire eventually fell down, as all empires do. But Iran is on the cusp of moving into the sphere of first world nations again. It is a bridge land between the West and the East. The goods of both spheres flow back and forth across this very dry desert theocracy. Sanctions, or no sanctions, the people of Iran are looking to make progress, constructing a modern civilization of their own, with contributions from every corner of the planet. Tehran, the largest city and capital of the Republic, fans out below the Arborz Mountains at the northern edge of the vast and mostly arid Iranian plateau. The first of the Qajar kings, a Turk, Aga Muhammad Khan, named Tehran the country's capital in 1778. Today, the sprawling city of roughly 14 million people often is smog-filled and traffic-clogged. The old and modern structures clash or blend, depending on one's perspective, in a cosmopolitan puzzle at nearly 1 mile above sea level. Any trainee tourist preparing to negotiate Tehran's streets on foot is coached on how not to get injured by cars, trucks, or motorbikes while crossing the street. It's best done in groups, with one of the parties sacrificing self as a decoy to confront these vehicles. The wealthier north end of the city squeezes up the gradually rising slopes of the Torshal ski mecca. In all seasons, the gondolas serve nature lovers, mavericks, and youthful men and women adventurers who put themselves above it all. For the fashionably decked out youth especially, the dry wind at heights over 12,000 feet tests the limits of fluttering hijabs and wafts of cigarette and other smoke. These are the heights where the symbols of real and imagined cultural oppressions are secretly scorned. One young woman, in her 20s I think, confessed to me while we cycled around the crowd control rail at the lift that she was on the mountain without her parents' knowledge. They were conservative, she suggested with a disappointed look. She also asked what it is like to get a job in the U.S. Naturally, we both conceded the political obstacles erected by the U.S. and Iran to her desire to emigrate, or even just to visit. Her encounter with me, an American, clearly was exciting to her. Her smiling anticipation of the prospect of an imagined liberation from the hijab lit a spark within me. By contrast to this young hiker's unloading, in the next hour I shared a downward glide on the lift with 3 older men who decided to sing loudly the traditional Shia chants of devotion to the Imams for my special benefit. There was no getting away from the enduring myths of this nation, or of mine. To visit an Imamzada tomb, usually in the shadow of an imposing mosque, women must be covered with special cloth and dress, and even female tourists are shunted to the private rooms in order to be properly adorned. However, once in the square or hovering over sacred ground, all visitors partake in a common chorus of greeters and meters, festive picture-taking and jovial relaxation before making the trek into the bowels of the bazaar at, for instance, Tajrish Square in central Tehran. Persia is the heart of Central Asia, wrapped around by China, Russia, and the Indian subcontinent. The extraordinary history of Persia, extending over at least 3 millennia, is in part driven by its geographical location at the intersection of the silk and spice trade routes. Iran was the first empire on earth, and this was no coincidence. The plateau provided residence for the seeds that sprouted and established, first, the conflict of good versus evil, overseen by Ahura Mazda and the prophet Zoroaster within the fabric of Zoroastrianism, and second, the salvation of Judaism, which evolved into Christianity, and third, the melting pot of Sunni and Shiite Islam, finally culminating in the Islamic Republic of Iran in 1979, a Shia capitalist society. Of course, this is a complex web of intrigue and human collusion with circumstances that still seem to be beyond full understanding. The West and East meet in the deserts of Iran, a virtually treeless, rocky plateau and mountains, guarding a few large oases that are today crowded with people tending not sheep and goats, but vehicles and devices. Consumerism is rampant, and suggestive of the probability that the lot of the inhabitants of this dry land has improved substantially in a material sense. Wealth is unevenly distributed for sure, as in most urban centers on the globe. However, a dynamic energy pervades the city's streets as secularism, like in the Western nations, is steadily usurping the power of spiritualism. The clerics remain the nation's moral authority, no doubt, but religion's ebb and flow here seems to be moderating. The Friday mosques still collect men at noon for the ritual prayers, but it appeared to me that many of the holy places are attended by a plurality of mostly older citizens and tourists, just like some churches and synagogues in Europe and the U.S. Meanwhile, the most conservative activist Muslims in Iran, the Shia sects, are a proselytizing offshoot of the more sedate mainstream Islam. Ashura is the 10th day of Muharram in the Islamic calendar. In Sunni and Shia Islam, Ashura commemorates the moment when the grandson of Prophet Muhammad, Hussein Ali, was slaughtered in a battle in Karbala, Iraq, tens of centuries ago, on October 10, 680 AD. Like evangelical Christians in the U.S., Shiite teachers and preachers are attempting to inspire and sustain the faithful. In modern Iran, Hussein's struggle long ago is seen as a battle against tyranny and unfairness. Some Sunni leaders promote flagellation and chest beatings as a way of remembering the suffering and pain of Hussein. Shia clergy tend to view missionary work among Sunnis to convert them to Shia Islam as a worthwhile religious endeavor. However, a Muslim mullah admitted to one publication, quote, "On the street I wear clerical clothes. Some people will greet me because of it, and others will insult me for the same reason." If your Persian rug wasn't made in Iran, then it isn't a Persian carpet. There is mystery woven into each fabric composition that's hard to fathom, even with a broad knowledge of the history of Persia and of Islam. It's not uncommon for the temporal to be blended with the abstract, forcing the mind to contemplate a unique kind of beauty, a beauty that's also peddled in the structures of Iran's mosques, buildings, and public squares. From the dawn of ancient trade and commerce, Persia was a major participant in the production of and/or transport of fine fabrics like silk and cloths like carpets, as well as of spices, perfumes, and gems. Wealth then, like today, was displayed by way of adornment on the person or of the household. Pliny the Elder gave the Persians the distinction of probably inventing a spice-based perfume to be used as a fragrance on the human person, especially in order to hide the natural dirtiness. The carpet, or rug, fulfilled a need to protect oneself and family from cold and damp floors of their homes and mosques, and for nomads, their tents. Today, carpet weaving is the most widespread handicraft in Iran, although the time-consuming task is quickly succumbing to mass production. Persian carpets are renowned for their rich colors, spectacular artistic designs, and quality of design. Abstract design is preeminent in Islamic art, but often important persons and events in history are portrayed in Persian carpets, even including the great personages of the West. Jesus and Napoleon make the distinguished guest list, alongside the messengers of the Bible and Quran. A Persian carpet is amongst the most treasured possessions. I had the privilege of visiting Tehran's highly touted Carpet Museum, noted for its rotating exhibits of historically significant rug samples and educational programs geared to preserving the very concentrated art of weaving and knotting. There is no price assigned to the fine art on display, but a buyer will sweat on his or her credit card when visiting the finest rug stores scattered within every town and city of Iran. The art of weaving and knotting originated more than 2,500 years ago. Some historians credit Cyrus the Great in the 500s BC for introducing carpet making into Persia. In the last quarter of the 19th century, and during the reign of Qajar, Persian carpet trade and craftsmanship regained their importance, prompting some European and American companies to set up businesses in Persia. Carpet stores inhabit stalls and niches in every market strip in the cities of Iran. Like pharmacies and gas stations on every American street corner, the carpet dealer of Persia holds block by block real estate that offers a pleasing assortment of color and abstract art to soothe the soul and cushion the behind. Many bistros, restaurants, and guest houses are caretakers of patios that serve as places for families, individuals and guests, and cats to relax, picnic, and even to sleep. Carpeted platforms made of wood may double both as table and bed. Push, an old Persian word meaning cloth, has become one of several clothing brands launched in modern Iran in the past 5 years. After the revolution of 1979, women's streetwear in Iran came down to two relatively drab choices to be matched with a demure wearer: the chador, or superior hijab, and the manteau, an overcoat designed to conceal a woman's body shape, became the default wardrobe in Iran's public places. But the women's mildly disaffected campaign against the hijab, or shawl, quickly manifested in more creative and alluring dress choices that pushed the strict religious codes. The Push brand today, for instance, advertises as a contemporary fashion dealer that purportedly is registered as a brand approved by authorities and the Ministry of Culture itself. It is a false imagination in the West that Persian women face limitation in the color of their clothing. Iranians call this impression given in movies and the media utter nonsense. Of course, there is a tendency for especially older women in conservative enclaves and towns like Mashhad and Qom to gravitate to dark-colored clothing. I saw them often. However, Iranian girls display designer brights and neons nearly everywhere. Many wear a loose, narrow scarf, allowing wisps of hair to frame their face. Untied hair shows from the back. Some wear heavy makeup. Shops in Iran are stuffed with skinny jeans and tights, and as one native travel agency states, Iranian girls don't show any intimidation in wearing them, so why should you? Iranian men of conservative persuasion indeed do wear black clothes, pants and shirt, often without a tie, when engaged in religious devotional activities, but on the street their lives imitate a motorcycle culture of casual and suggestive. Women and men flirt on the edges of established custom, as might be expected almost anywhere else in the world. Western men, as I alluded to previously, are especially prized captures for the more adventurous and mostly educated urban females. Women occupy more than half the university seats in the country, and certainly are very socially active and economically more independent than Western reporters give them credit for. The allure of Iran's women, their perfumes and the colorful patterns of their clothing and home appliances, after all, carries on today in alignment with the mystique of the Orient, facilitated by Iran's pivotal role in the emergence of the Silk Road and the spice and gems flow. Alexander the Great, a young man and master military strategist and conqueror, succumbed to the charms of the Persian courtesans even as he presided over the looting and destruction of Darius's great city of Persepolis and the Magi's Zoroastrian strongholds. Alexander assumed for himself the distinctive King of Kings role and married off his army's officers to Persian women. The lion and sun emblem, holding a shamshir, remained the official symbol of Iran until the 1979 revolution, when it was removed from public spaces and government organizations and replaced by a coat of arms. The lion caricature is part of the oldest historical monument in Tehran, the Golestan Palace, designated a World Heritage Site. It began in the 16th century as a fortress by the Safavids, encompassing an extensive garden. The complex used by the Shah for royal events includes the marble throne, created from yellow Yazd marble. During the Safavid era, the lion and sun represented two foundations of Persian society, the state and the Islamic religion. It became the national emblem during the subsequent Qajar era, 1781 to 1925. The lion, of course, is the ancient sign of the sun in the house of Leo, a symbol traced to Babylonian astrology. For the Safavids, the Shah had two roles, king and holy man. This double meaning was associated with the genealogy of Iranian kings. When the last Shah was removed a few decades ago, the nation became a theocratic democracy. In essence, the head was severed and the son was consigned to be carried on the back of the lion. This caricature, intended or not, occasionally appears in the colorful tiles artwork around the nation. I first encountered the lion emblem on a wall that is part of the royal dwellings and offices of the former Shahanshah of Iran, the Shah, His Imperial Majesty. As usual, I encountered many facets and meanings connected to every symbolism and name attached to the Persian historical personages and locations. The Pahlavi dynasty is one such instance. The Pahlavi dynasty was the ruling house of the imperial state of Iran from 1925 until 1979, when the monarchy was abolished. The lion figure appears throughout Iranian history, extending back to at least the 5th century BC, King Cyrus's and Darius's era. The sun was not always a companion. The bull also is a prominent actor on the Persian stage, and this is very evident in the ancient massive stone cities like Persepolis, a place I visited later during my visit to Iran. Like many of the mosques and palace complexes scattered in the large cities, Tehran's buildings, especially the historical masterpieces, need some polishing. With or without the polish, though, the structures and furnitures of these masterful houses of the nation's former powerful are awesome to behold, the Shah's dwellings not excepted. No photography is permitted in some of the most startling locations, but accessible exterior porches and public reception areas present some of the finest artistic impulses this nation's craftspeople have to offer. A magnificent interplay of arches and brick and tile, with mirrors and glass, plus abstract and historical depictions, are found in every religious center of the country, and often in the secular places as well. However, these uncountable displays definitely and often are serious puzzles to solve, requiring either a genius knowledge of Near Eastern or even some classical Western history, or resignation to assigning one's own mythical imaginings to the color and design patterns. And so, my first conundrum, mentioned here, was the ever-lurking image of the lion and the scimitar or shamshir. While Tehran has much human drama to keep a first-time or umpteenth-time visitor entertained, the heart of Iran still beats in the central plateau south of the city. It behooves a visitor to join the heavily traveled freeway, winding along dry washes and barren desert landscapes, past the holy city of Qom to Kashan and Yazd, and to places where vast armies once maneuvered and great kings held court and managed the world's first empire. The highway soon crosses a hot and day, cool at night arid and windswept land, lined with gravel, sand, and salt plains, with lots of discarded trash, mixed with empty hills and distant hazy mountains, the Zagros. It is hard for me to imagine that such a place could foster and feed an empire at one time, unless up until a millennium or so ago the climate was perhaps wetter and more welcoming of vegetation. Along the way, Iran's modernization scheme has already been realized in some locations, where so-called rest areas for motorists resemble familial meccas for cool, clean fun and even miniature shopping malls. All sorts of people mingle at these welcome centers, including busloads of European tourists and automobiles transporting city dwellers seeking holiday relaxation. Here in the desert, bereft of trees, is the heart of lightness, where the Persian sun dominated a nearly cloudless sky every day while I passed through. The shrine of Fatima Masume is in Qom, considered by Shia Muslims to be the second most sacred city in Iran after Mashhad. Fatima Masume was the sister of the 8th Imam Riza. Shia women apparently may be revered as saints if they are close relatives to one of the 12 Imams. And such shrines of family members outnumber even the holy sites dedicated to the founding Imams themselves throughout Iran. Since the beginning of Qum's history in the 7th century, many authors equate the city with Shi'ism, set apart from the Sunni Caliphate. About 2.5 hours south of Tehran on the Qom-Kerman Road, the oasis of Kashan bakes alongside the parched desert. This city-town, packed at one time with palatial mansions, was treated by some of the Qajar Shahs as a retreat from the intrigues of the royal suites in the capital. Like so many Near East caravanserais, this city is rich in historical and religious significance that's still being deciphered. Archaeological discoveries nearby indicate this region was one of the primary centers of civilization in prehistoric ages, the so-called Elamite period. And according to legend, the 3 wise men, or magi, bearing gifts to Jesus, began their journey following the Star of David from this town. Zoroastrian traditions here eventually became submerged under the waves of Arabian Muslims that swept the dust near the end of the 6th century AD. The Imamzada Ibrahim is one of the smaller Islamic historical structures in Kashan, and with 20th century enhancements, the shrine displays Persian sensibilities in mirrors, rugs, and tiles. Built in 1894, this mausoleum boasts a conical tiled turquoise roof that is distinctive to this area. I could only marvel at the play of light in a late afternoon sunshine while wandering in stocking feet on rugs and tiles beneath the holy glow of multicolored glitter. Plastic chairs for the caretakers seemed an anomaly and anachronism. Here, despite the ultra-conservative nature of the population, hospitality shown to Americans was relentless and playful. One woman among a clutch of picnicking women ran across the lawn and offered a piece of birthday cake. At an intersection, another young lady rolled down her car's window and handed over small candies with a smile and a brief wave of her hand, and then drove away. Observing the natural congeniality among the locals, I relished the seeming normalness of life here, and welcomed the peacefulness, interrupted only at one point by some women who wanted me to take their picture, then by a cry from a young boy who fell into the water, sluicing from a palace bath. Mother and son shared this moment with relative poise, like any parent and child would anywhere in the world. Wise men, called the 3 Magi of the East, came to Jerusalem asking, "Where is the child who has been born King of the Jews?" The word magus is of Persian origin. Legends and tradition assign the meaning of the kings of the Orient to the Zoroastrians, men versed in a prophecy of Zoroaster, emissary of Ahura Mazda. A book produced at the beginning of the 20th century by A.V. Williams Jackson from Columbia University posed that a majority of the Church Fathers regard Persia as the native country of the wise men, without expressly locating their place of origin. Marco Polo, however, mentions 3 places in Persia from which these kings were supposed to have come, with special emphasis on the castle of the fire worshippers. Jackson believes the reference Marco makes to Kassan or Kashan establishes the location of these learned people perhaps 20 miles south on the Kashan-Isfahan road. Now a deserted place where a settlement of fire worshippers gathered adjacent to the ruins of a magnificent caravanserai. It is far from certain whether Kashan figured in the biblical account of the discovery of Jesus, but his candidacy reflects the ancient mystique of this city oasis on the desert, the Maranjab, strewn with older towns and mounds dating back several millennia BC. Kashan's antiquity is attested by the mud brick backstreets and neighborhoods and a cluster of palatial homes. City nightlife obscures the modesty of Kashan's past, however. The virtually undiminished historical bazaar, Kimche Amin Odole, features a structure designed to naturally regulate temperature and sunlight and ventilate the interior. Wandering within the cavern-like market, I discovered what I dubbed the Green Mosque, presiding over a back alley. The courtyard was nearly deserted, but bathed in emerald-colored lights. I learned that green is a popular color in Iran and symbolizes, according to one account, gardens, nature, heaven, and sanctity. Green also purportedly was the favorite color of the Prophet Muhammad. In the 12th century, green was chosen as a dynastic color by the Shiite Fatimids, in contrast to the black used by the Sunnite Abbasids. Shah Abbas I designed the central gardens, the Fin Garden, as a classical Persian vision of paradise. The World Heritage Site, commonly referred to as Bagh-e-Fin Gardens in Bath, is one of Central Asia's grander picnic grounds for royalty and citizens. Nearby springs quench a variety of flora, including a healthy dose of cypress trees. It was in a small enclave adjacent to the garden where Mirza Taghi Khan, known as Amir Kabir, Chancellor of Iran's king, in 1852 was assassinated. The Queen Mother and his executioner, Ali Khan Faresh Bashi, had convinced the king that a Russian plot to protect Amir Kabir was afoot. Amir Kabir was murdered in Kashan on January 10, 1852. No ruler or ruler's servant of this nation could ever be entirely comfortable or safe from plot. A verse composed by the renowned poet Hafez reads, "The Sultan's crown with priceless jewels set encircles fear of death and constant dread. It is a head dress much desired. And yet, are you sure it's worth the danger to the head?" Kashan today has a brooding nature, perhaps remembering past upheavals and intrigues. During my brief stop in Kashan in 2017, I reside in the Saraya Mariha Boutique Hotel and restored Tabatabai House, recently renovated and repurposed to become one of the luxury hotels in the city. Courtyards, wall paintings, and mirrors with elegant stained glass windows greet you at every turn. More than once I had to pause and backtrack in search of my assigned room within the wall labyrinth. In one random ascent of some steps, I reached a rooftop and experienced there an eerie silence and vague nostalgic sensation as though I had regressed in time. A soft, partially unveiled September moon and a cooler desert breeze that night was ushering in Ashura in Muharram. The Tabatabai property, comprised of 40 rooms, 3 wind towers, 4 yards, is one of several elaborate merchant-owned mansions in Isfahan province, many having been originally financed on the backs of travelers paying tolls along the Silk Road. The property has secret rooms and passageways, including one leading to a darkness above, positioned in the wall of my lavishly tiled bathroom, featuring 2 showers and a deep jacuzzi-capacity traditional tub. As my fellow travelers can attest, the woodwork, paintings, carvings, and decorative art, much of which are still now being delicately retouched and updated, conspire with fragrant gardens, hammams, or Turkish baths, and pools to offer a visitor a moment of timeless relaxation. Before leaving Old Kashan on the road to Yazd, one of the finest examples of much more recent 18th to 19th century Islamic architecture beckons from the city center. The mosque known as Aqaba Zorg points in many places to a different heaven than the one championed by Zoroaster. The building's motif is spare but beautiful, as color of the finished core is juxtaposed against bare brick, as though mimicking an unfinished picture puzzle. Many famous artists of this area contributed to the wall art of this complex that serves as both a mosque and a theological seminary. Kashan is the edge of contemporary history. Traveling southeast and west from here, amidst the Carcass mountain range, a traveler confronts the more ancient and complicated origins of the empire, couched in the annals collected from biblical times. South of the Carcass mountain subgroup, and at the heart of the Persian sun world, an ancient redoubt named Ardistan nurtures a prominent landmark that features fire worshipper origins. Ardistan is located in the proximity of the Dasht-e-Kavir, another desert. Its inhabitants had to face extreme heat for most of the year and lack of water. Water, though, was available at mountain springs, and long tunnels called qanats carry it to the town into domed storage structures, limiting its evaporation. Natural air conditioning towers catch the wind and push air downwards, reducing its temperature. Nearby Shabastans are cool temperature moderated underground halls built at the qanat level. In Ardistan, a large water storage complex resides adjacent to one of the most exquisite older religious centers of Iran, its Jame Friday Mosque. The primeval mosque was built in the 10th century to fit Islamic sensibilities and has served 4 epochs of congregations. The particularly compelling structure displays some of the refinement of the unfinished brickwork patterns that in modern times are being restored with tiles and artwork reminiscent of the original intention of these exquisite buildings. The south sanctuary, with the main mihrab, a prayer niche, is beneath a 2-shelled brick dome dated from 1158 to 1160. Patterns here are inscribed in brick and stucco, not tiles. Its vault features whirling arabesques made of brick and whitewash. The main mihrab is ranked among the best achievements of Seljuk Turk plaster art. It has rows of inscriptions in Kufic, Naskh, and Talik, carved on a background of stucco flowers and arabesques. As a note of interest, the Seljuks were followers of Sunni Islam, not Shia, and these Turks sponsored the construction of many large mosques and madrases, or colleges for Islamic study, while occupying Iran. Another magnificent mosque in the nearby town of Nain sits atop a qanat and water pool and dark chambers and passages that once shielded congregants and worshippers, perhaps even pre-Islamic Zoroastrians, from the torrid climate. The somber, cool chambers below ground hold many secrets and tales, I have no doubt. Silent jugs bear witness to many visitors, even as they once also held water and/or ceremonial ointments for use over many centuries. While there is much else going on in this region of northern Esfahan province, probably the most notable takeaway is the sheer audacity of Persian endeavors in this challenging rocky land over thousands of years. The Dariuses and his minions of Zoroastrian believers built monuments to heaven.